Hey there, this is Robert Kornacki, co-founder and leading design/development of Paima Engine. In this video, we're going to jump straight into stateful NFTs, which we've also dubbed as NFTs 2.0, and I think it'll make sense why once we get into the nitty-gritty. And pretty much what we're going to be doing is exploring stateful NFTs as a new advancement in the world of NFTs. What were the technological innovations required, and what are the inspirations and lessons which we had to gather from the layer 2 and roll-up world to make stateful NFTs a reality? And at a mechanical level, how does it work, and what have been the kind of sticking points of why no one before us at Paima Studios has discovered and implemented stateful NFTs before? So let's jump right in. For those who aren't familiar, you can find kind of the surface level explanation of stateful NFTs on our website at paimastudios.com, and we've done a previous blog post and some Twitter videos about what they are. But just to summarize real quick, at their core, stateful NFTs take the old model, where your NFT is a non-fungible token that lives on a blockchain, and originally with NFTs 1.0, the current generation of NFTs, your NFT just represents one thing. There's no way to change that. Some of them, there's some attempts of using like metadata with dynamic NFTs and these little steps that kind of take you to maybe a 1.5. But inherently, you're stuck in this model where you have an NFT and changing its representation is impossible. And the only thing you can change is by burning it and creating a new one, or going through maybe using metadata in different ways. But this metadata is very clunky and it's limited to this NFT 1.0 model effectively. You're stuck with this primitive where inherently it's not designed for the use case of having a object, an account, a character in a game, anything that actually changes and grows over time, where you have a state that always develops, like the experience or the level of a character you're playing, say in an MMO. This kind of stuff is impossible to do in the NFT 1.0 model, even if you try and experiment with metadata and doing all that. And for those, since this is a more technical video, the trade-offs of that is really high gas costs, the requirement of someone always submitting a transaction, where you can't have automatic development of your NFT metadata. And you also run into issues where you can't be expressive enough, and you limit the entire design space of your game to the point where you can't really go through this process of using metadata, and you actually have to go to an entire new model, which is based on the latest and greatest in layer 2 technology. So your stateful NFTs are NFTs that follow the same standard at their base as NFTs 1.0. So that means they actually plug into existing NFT marketplaces, not fully, because each marketplace has to do the stateful integration of the actual stateful part, but the NFTs themselves aren't, some crazy new standard that all the previous tooling has to, be redesigned to support. It actually slots into all the previous tooling, and then it just needs small adjustments in the previous tooling, the previous marketplaces, and everything else. They just need slight adjustments to kind of visually support all of the extra features of stateful NFTs. And so what's really cool here is that we're moving into this new era in Web3 gaming, and also actually Web3 overall, where we'll have this completely new primitive, where you have the NFT benefits of having something that you truly own that's representatory of just that unique asset, and then have that built on top of a model where that one unique asset isn't just stuck either as a single NFT with a little bit changing metadata, or it's not stuck on centralized private servers on whatever a game company's servers. We actually get the perfect middle, where you get all the benefits and security, which we'll dive into in a moment, of the NFT being on the underlying chain, the layer 1. Those could also be layer 2, layer 3, depending where you deploy your game with Paima Engine, made with Paima Engine. And so what you do is you take the underlying security with stateful NFTs. You don't have any bridging risk because your NFT never leaves the layer 1. Thinking about the Paima engine made game as the layer 2 being deployed. And so with stateful NFTs, you get the benefits of having a character that grows, develops, and changes over time as you play, or even passively without anyone submitting a single transaction. While you have no bridging risk, you have the layer 2 using Paima engine, your game, has no custodial ownership of the NFT itself. And so you have the full exact security benefits of holding your NFT, whether it's NFT 1.0 or as an NFT 2.0 as a stateful NFT. And so this allows us to effectively expand all the benefits of the old paradigm of NFTs while introducing no new risks of you losing your NFT, of having to trust either an optimistic or ZK bridge, where there's trade-offs there in price, speed, ability to actually have the NFTs work, because currently most roll-up bridges, for example, only support fungible tokens, and getting that cleanly to work with NFTs in a two-way bridge, to my knowledge, at this very moment has not been done yet. Though technically possible, but like I said, there's going to be high costs associated, it's going to be slow, you have to do multiple transactions just to get onto the layer 2. While with Paima Engine, we really surveyed the technology of rollups, of layer 2s, and seen what do we actually need to make Web3 gaming as good as it can be. And based off of all that research that I've primarily done at Paima Studios, we've made a lot of innovations, and stateful NFTs are one of the prime ones that we're really excited about and we think will truly change Web3 gaming and potentially Web3 in general, as more and more use cases, even past gaming, will start to use stateful NFTs in our opinion. So that's kind of more at the surface level of what are stateful NFTs, and let's kind of jump deeper in and talk about the underlying mechanics of how this all works. So the exciting thing about Paima Engine is that it allows you to build your own layer 2. Paima Engine thus acts as this catalyst with some built-in rules that define how your layer 2 works, and these rules then integrate core features like stateful NFTs. You fully design your game however you want, but we provide the primitives for you and effectively provide you all of the bootstrapping architecture so that you place your core game logic within all the infrastructure we build, and then everything just seamlessly should work for you. And that's a really exciting concept because it's kind of, people are talking about, roll-ups as a service. This is really Paima Engine's the architecture so that you can provide and build your own roll-up, and whether that's directly run by you, directly run on another server, we're effectively creating all of that core infrastructure for you so that you can just hit the ground running and have everything baked in with as little work on your end as possible, because this is all just available from day one. So with stateful NFTs, as I mentioned, we effectively have a layer 1 and a layer 2, right? And your layer 1 is whatever blockchain that your NFTs are deployed on, and your layer 2 is your game. From this perspective, classical rollups require you to have your NFT, you submit a transaction to move it over the rollup bridge, it gets to the rollup, it takes some time, costs a bit, then it's actually on the rollup. Once it's on the rollup, you have it, and then you can play games and do stuff. If you want to go back, you have to go through the bridging process back to the layer 1. And so you have the custodial bridging risk of the layer 2. You have the problem of you have to move onto the layer 2 and back to the layer 1 if you ever want to do anything with your NFT on the layer 1. And the other thing is, you're still stuck in a model where, okay, your NFT is on a layer 1 and then it's on a layer 2, but nothing really changes about how you interact or use the NFT or makes it, in fact, stateful. And so some people have been thinking about using ZK rollups, say, for making NFTs more dynamic, right? So there's a push for dynamic NFTs in a number of ecosystems with different standards for all this. And this is all using metadata. But it doesn't really matter too much whether that NFT is on layer 1 or layer 2 if you're just pursuing this, in my opinion, naive dynamic model of just using metadata, but you're still stuck in a blockchain first virtual machine. Well, this doesn't scale. This doesn't have the ability for stuff to happen passively. And you're really limited on many fronts from stateful NFTs even being possible. And so, jumping back to Paima Engine itself provides us with a new primitive where this is something that initially I discovered when building Paima Engine, and I kind of realized that everything clicks into place really nicely here. And this is a direction that in the current roll-up in Layer 2 space, no one's really dived into full-heartedly, and so a lot of these discoveries haven't really been made before. But what we can do is that rather than having this whole setup where you have to move the NFT and then you're stuck in a blockchain model, Paima Engine is designed so that as an L2, it actually has data projections from the layer 1. And so that means if you own a specific NFT, say I'm making a new game, we're having we're making kind of like an MMO type game where you buy a stateful NFT, say for $2, and you start with a level 1 character. This level 1 character, it has base stats, level 1, 0 experience, and what we want to do is have it be stateful in the layer 2 game that's built with Paima Engine, right? And so what happens is that the layer 1 actually mints this stateful NFT, and when it's minting, it will have the optionality of submitting a arbitrary string or data, which defines the type of NFT. So, for example, if you have a contract that's selling a character stateful NFT, and you have, say, 2 factions, right? You can choose, evil faction or good faction, and you'll mint from the same contract, but that evil or good metadata, this is not metadata on the NFT, this is metadata you submit when minting the NFT. This metadata then acts as the catalyst to initialize the actual state in your game layer 2. And so what that means is when someone buys a good faction NFT, they buy the NFT from the same contract as the bad faction. From the perspective of the layer 1, there's actually no difference between these two types of NFTs, because what happens is that metadata on the purchasing gets projected into the layer 2 game. Your layer 2, via Paima Funnel, it does this all automatically for you with architecture to follow the purchase, read that extra metadata, do a lot of inner machinations to set up an entire system to allow you as a developer to initialize the state of the NFT. And then inside of your layer 2, when your game state machine, so your logic that you implement that's run with Paima Engine, this then initializes the actual state that's attached to your layer 1 NFT. And so what's really cool here is your NFT, as soon as you purchase it, as long as your specific game supports that class or collection of NFTs, that ownership and minting data is instantly at that exact same block height projected into your Paima Engine made game, your layer 2. And what's really cool is Paima Engine designed so that all updates on the layer 1 for NFT ownership status, so whether that's minting or sending between people, or sending to marketplaces or wherever, these are instantly at that exact same block height projected into your layer 2. And so at that exact same block height, you already know. There's no bridging time. You don't have to wait 5-10 blocks. You don't have to bridge into the layer 2, out of layer 2. You don't have to take that bridging and custodial risk. You have none of that. Just instantly, as soon as that NFT is minted, the person who minted it can get it. You can put a contract that allows you to buy it for $1-2. You mint it through that contract, and then you receive the NFT. In that exact same block, so let's say that's block 1000, we can have we do have logic in the layer 2 in our game state machine that sees that it was minted and then initializes the state of the good faction NFT character or bad faction NFT character. And that state, at that exact same time, technically, if you really wanted to, you could mint the NFT on the layer 1 and submit game inputs to whatever, start a battle with the NFT at that exact same block height, showing that there's zero latency because all of the updates for the ownership and minting of new stateful NFTs get projected immediately, and then afterwards, any game inputs that anyone submits to your game as a layer 2 then get applied afterwards. And so we have a zero latency solution for data projection of NFT ownership, which allows us to have stateful NFTs that just instantly work. And then it's in a model within Paima Engine, this world of Paima Engine layer 2s, where we're not stuck in a blockchain virtual machine, which is really where everyone in the Web3 gaming space is kind of stuck in. Everyone's just, trying to copy the EVM, copy the Solana VM, copy the Algorand EVM, and then trying to do games on top of that. But what you need is to start from a fundamental level, just like what Paima Engine, what we've done at Paima Studios, is doing. And so what that allows us to do is we don't have this clunky model where you have to go through bridges because the blockchain-based VM has it's optimized for financial transactions. It's not optimized for gaming. You also get a really, really big benefit, and this is utterly key, is that when anything happens in the layer 2, that assignment of in-game state, it's always one-to-one based on the underlying NFT on the layer 1. Meaning any action that updates the NFT requires the permission of the owner on the layer 1. And this is something that's fundamental because our layer 2s built with Paima Engine, they rely on the security of the layer 1. And so because we have none of that bridging, we have none of the problems of having two separate VMs, we have this custom VM that Paima Engine builds as an underlying part of it that you use for your games. It powers your stateful NFTs, allows them the benefit of passive time. So, say we add in a feature where it's a Christmas event, right? And everyone's NFTs get +1 experience just for free over the Christmas holidays just to make it enjoyable. +1 percentage experience per day or something, for example. You can do that purely passively. And that's something that using a blockchain VM for gaming, you suddenly have to send out 50,000 transactions or however many transactions per user just to apply that globally. And so with stateful NFTs and Paima Engine, you instead can automatically schedule full updates to any global game state that's attached to any NFT and have it happen, more distributed. You could do 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. You could do, or 10,000 again for 50,000. You could do, split it up to batches of 100. You could do all 50,000 at once. You could have arbitrary complex ways of determining who gains the experience and who doesn't. Or, maybe someone has to log in and play at least 5 times a month to get this benefit. You can have arbitrarily complex situations where things are applied to the state of the NFT automatically without having someone to submit a custom transaction. All you have to do is implement the game logic in your layer 2 to just seamlessly integrate into mutating that stateful NFT state. This is really exciting because as a primitive, the inhibitions of just, using the standard rollup and layer 2 technology that all other projects today are going with, where they just use blockchain VMs, they inherently are locked in based off of that choice. And we're really excited because, from day one when I started designing Paima Engine, we really looked at what do games need in Web3, not what is the easiest path for us to get up and running. We started with, from scratch building Paima Engine, and that allows us to have stateful NFTs, where you have none of the downsides and negatives that are typically associated with rollups in the world of Web3 gaming. But instead, we provide the basis for you as a developer to allow people to keep their NFTs on the layer 1, rely on the security of the L1, yet have this full powerhouse of Paima Engine to build your game using Web 2 technologies, and even have NFTs 2.0. So you don't have to code in Solidity, Plutus, or whatever language at the layer 1 level. You can just reuse existing contracts already built out for the stateful NFT minting and so forth themselves. Don't have to really change almost anything there, except maybe 5-10% to customize to your specific game. And instead, you put all of your logic using Web 2 technologies, like most people are familiar with TypeScript or JavaScript. And that allows you to actually build full-fledged games with arbitrary, complex ways of using stateful NFTs. And so you can have a stateful NFT that's like a character that we said. You can do time-based events where if someone does an action, they can get plus 25% experience. People can have kind of passive games where they send their character out onto an adventure, and every 30 minutes or every hour, and the character gets a random roll, and maybe they succeed on the adventure and they find some gold, or they ran into an enemy and they failed and they got hit and lost HP. All of this can happen automatically with the power of Paima Engine and passive time in Paima Engine, and this all is fully bound to the NFT that's on the layer 1 itself, and there's no way to actually separate them. And that's really exciting because we have this fully deterministic way of binding game state that, I play the game today in 2023, I come back in 10 years in 2033, and because everything with Paima Engine has been submitted to the layer 2, which means it got submitted through the layer 1. As long as I have access to the layer 1, I can replay the entire history of those entire 10 years and see and actually use that same stateful NFT that I bought 10 years ago and that I played with for maybe a month or something. This is really exciting because we're not stuck in this boring world of NFTs 1.0 where your NFT is just a static thing. We're not stuck in this Web 2.5 model where you have an NFT, but then you can do stuff with it and maybe stuff changes about it, but it's all on some company's private servers. And those private servers in 10 years, do they exist? Probably not, as we've seen with most old MMORPGs. Companies go out of business or the game stop making money, and then the servers close, and then your NFT suddenly becomes back to the exact same thing as just a static asset on a blockchain, and even worse because the game it was built for is no longer usable. With Paima Engine, in this world of truly trustless Web3 gaming, with NFTs 2.0, we actually go back to the roots of we want trustless blockchain infrastructure. We want stuff that will live on into the decades going forward, and at a fundamental level, they actually use the core benefits of blockchain. We're not using blockchain just because, it's cool technology that everyone's excited about, and it's just a way to extract money from gamers by selling them NFTs worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Stateful NFTs, really go back to the core fundamentals of blockchain of what does this technology offer at a fundamental level? And that really is, trustless global state. And with that, in the latest innovations of layer 2 technologies, we now have the ability to build out full-fledged games and have those the actual game state attached to NFTs that never leaves the layer 1. This entire image and vision of what Web3 gaming can become is really kind of the fire that got lit in us when I started to do all that fundamental initial research into Paima Engine approximately a year ago. And that's why we've been working so hard to really deliver all of this, and we're really excited to bring all of this to developers very soon with making Paima Engine in the near term available for developers to use and having all of the infrastructure for stateful NFTs baked in, and also with a lot of documentation and tutorials, examples of how to also eventually integrate stateful NFTs into your game so you can get this flawless experience for all your users. Really, at the end of the day, from my perspective at the very least, but in general in Paima Studios, what we're really aiming for is not just pushing, a single, small path towards what we think Web3 gaming is, but really from first principles, exploring into, the depths of the unknown, of if we take, the trustless nature of blockchain seriously, and we actually think that there's a benefit of using the trustless and immutable assets or benefits of blockchain for gaming, where does that bring us in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of development? After 1 year, we already have Paima Engine working. We're getting close to having that available for external developers. We have stateful NFTs and integrated, and we have a lot of core technology like passive time and lots of benefits that no other Web3 gaming project has to date, because they haven't really spent in that time and effort to actually really go into a new direction where you're not just copying virtual machines from existing projects, but you're actually starting from scratch. We're really excited to see where this can go, and this likely will surpass even the innovations that we discover, because we really do believe this is the direction and this is the future of Web3 gaming. The way that we're interacting with layer 2 technology, with Paima Engine, we really do believe at a fundamental level is the solution for the entire future of Web3 gaming. And so even though we're at the forefront of this, we're at the tip of building Paima Engine in this entire class of new trustless Web3 gaming technologies with stateful NFTs, passive time, and a lot of other discoveries that are really exciting. We're really not just focused on making Paima Engine the best that it can be, but we're really here to push the vision that you should expect that games you play really start from a trustless foundation and then actually have new technology. Not just, we can repackage Web 2.5 in 40 or 50 different ways to make it sound more cool, but actually looking into what is possible with this technology. And I really do believe that there are countless more discoveries past stateful NFTs that will be possible going in this new direction. However, we just haven't had anyone before us who's doing it, and we're really excited with making Paima Engine available and getting people to actually feel, wow, this is the direction of what Web3 gaming can be using layer 2 technology, and start to brainstorm, talk with us, join our Discord, and we can start really finding and kind of going step by step in discovering just what are the ends of this technology. And likely we will start to see more and more brand new fundamental primitives implemented and discovered over time, just like we've had in DeFi, just like we've had at the layer 1 and layer 2 levels in blockchain technology. And we're really excited to be here with all of you in this direction and building all of this out. So, with all of that said and done, stateful NFTs, in our opinion, are going to be a really large part of Web3 gaming. As I mentioned earlier in the video, we really do think this will expand out past just gaming into concepts where, any account in any system can be a stateful NFT. That account, from the perspective of gaming, can be an in-game character, but that account can just as easily be, an account for a rewards program. And so as you go to different stores, you gather rewards, and that gets automatically allocated onto your stateful NFT, with the rewards program logic acting as a layer 2, which the logic was built with Paima Engine. There's a lot of other use cases related to stateful NFTs, and we do think gaming is most likely going to be the most valuable and most exciting, both from a developer and user perspective, for Stateful NFTs. But overall, we're really excited just to be here and building all this out, because really, Stateful NFTs act as this next step forward of taking the idea seriously that users truly own their assets, and we can extend the capabilities of these assets still with no custodial risk, with no new bridges, with no new extra, asterisks that you have to be wary of, but just purely at a fundamental level, extending the functionality of NFTs, or there's existing NFTs or NFTs people make after the fact, specifically as stateful NFTs. All of these can be supported with our technology, and we're really, really, really excited, as I've said many times at this point, to just be here building this, and we're really excited to talk with all of you and build out the future. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.